Yeah, so basically the heart behind this episode is to reset the seller mindset, right? Because for so long, we're still seeing sellers be unrealistic with pricing.
Oh, yeah.
And so, we're going to go on camera and on record and say, listen, it ain't 21 and 22 real estate market. You missed that boat, just like you missed the boat of a sub-3 interest rate.
And that's what I was saying at the beginning is sellers need to understand trends and what buyers' behaviors are, and understand that you can do things that we call it the kiss of death and the actions you can take. And one of them is shooting too far for the moon with the price and going, I'll just adjust it later. But the market doesn't work that way. All right, levels. Rock and rolling.
Yes, we are.
Welcome to the Anchored Real Estate Podcast. I'm Johnny Dugan. That is the anchorman himself, Cody Chembars. Cody is also the broker here at Anchor Real Estate Advisors. And today we've got a cool show for you. We just did an episode that really concentrated on buyers and really getting down to the nitty gritty and strategy of making a good, clean, strong offer and all the levers we can pull to do that. We're going to do something similar with the sellers today. And so it's kind of understanding, again, you can have, you intuitively know, you get an agent, you put your house on the market, you set a price, you do some negotiation, and then you sell. But there's a lot of nuances to it. And this is really more than the buyer side. The seller side really gets market driven more than the buyer side. Buyers tend to set trends. Sellers kind of need to understand the trends and act, I would say, address the listing accordingly. So, Cody, you've got some great notes to kick us off.
I got some
show notes.
Yeah, this is episode 12.
Yeah, we're on show notes now. We're not just straight winging it.
Our viewers, I'm sure, are appreciative.
Yeah, right.
That we are on track.
Yeah.
And we're not rumbling and
Rambling, man.
Listen, if you can't laugh at yourself,
Yes.
are you really even living? Yeah, so basically the heart behind this episode, this podcast, is to reset the seller mindset, right? Because for so long, and we're still coming onto this, you had mentioned in the last episode you were on a listing appointment, or maybe it was between episodes that you were on a listing appointment, and we're still seeing sellers be unrealistic with pricing.
Oh, yeah.
And so, we're going to go on camera and on record and say, listen, it ain't 21 and 22 real estate market. You missed that boat, just like you missed the boat of a sub-3 interest rate.
And that's what I was saying at the beginning is like, sellers kind of need to understand trends and what buyers' behaviors are, and understand that you can do things that we call it the kiss of death. There's a few, what we call a kiss of death and the actions you can take. And one of them is shooting too far for the moon with the price and going, I'll just adjust it later. But the market doesn't work that way. I don't want to get off point, but I was just using that as a point.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. So some things to note as you're listening to this episode. And maybe you feel like, oh, they're talking about me. We're not here to offend anybody.
Yeah.
We're here to educate. Okay. So don't get mad. Don't leave a thumbs down.
Now, let me say it like this. If we're telling a story, it's because it's the 8th or 10th time we've seen the story. We're good at, ignoring the low judges and doing an average of the rest of the judges. That's a topical Olympic reference right there. But yeah, if there are anomalies, we can brush those off.
Yeah. So it's not criticism. It's simply perspective. Full-time realtors sharing what we see. Most sellers, the other reality is most sellers only sell a home a few times in their life. Yeah. So it's like if you've maybe sold a home 20 years ago, it is
it's just different.
Way different.
It's different. Completely different.
Pen and paper anymore.
Yeah. And again, I mentioned it before, buyer behavior is so different from what it used to be.
That's right.
And you have to understand that and market and work your magic accordingly.
That's right. So, but the goal for this episode, plain and simple, is not to just teach you how to sell, but how to sell well. And you are an educated seller. And so the reality is that there's a lot of people, a lot of agents in the marketplace that have sold very minimal homes. And so if you're partnering with an agent, and again, this is not a dig or knock at anyone, but the recent NAR statistic was 73% of realtors sold nothing last year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Zero.
Right.
And so, and we've talked about this in our brokerage meetings where we've came behind national billboard brokerages that grossly misrepresented the seller, whether that was wrong square footage, pricing it too high, not communicating with the client. So
terrible listings.
That's
all. Let me tell you something. Can we please do an episode on terrible listings?
Absolutely.
And I don't know if we can pull them up, maybe historical ones. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or it drives me bananas. Sorry, I'm not trying to keep it on the rails, but we're going to do a whole episode on terrible listings.
Yes. Yeah. We could talk for days on that. Yeah. Okay. So the market sets the price, not emotion.
Yeah.
Right. So lean into that for just a second.
So we all want the best price, right? We all want to get the most. That is for sure. But at the end of the day, now there's two elements to market sets the price. We will go through what's competitive right now, what have homes sold for right now, what's buyer activity and what's buyer behavior right now, and we're going to set a listing price. But ultimately, what it sells for is ultimately and usually completely driven by the market.
Yes.
There's too many numbers out right now for a buyer to say, oh, I had no idea what this house was worth, so I accidentally overpaid. As soon as they click on a house, we've seen it on national sites where it's like, here it is, here's how it compares to the three neighbors, here's what, here's the average of the three. Oh, and by the way, here's what we think you should offer. And all the things, there's too many numbers out there to think that you're going to be the one that finds a buyer that doesn't know the value. And what ends up happening is the market is a much bigger driver of the ultimate sales price. Now, the good thing is the market is good. The market is strong, and so you're probably going to get a decent price. But what I'm saying is you can't just throw a price out there and stick to it and then just assume that somebody's going to come reach you there, because the market is it's too informed.
Right. I would agree with that. And I've gone on many listing appointments where the seller will say, well, this website that starts with a Z and ends with Illo, this is what it says my house is worth.
Yeah.
That's not market value.
Right.
That's a marketing tactic.
Yep.
That's not your market value. And then another huge thing is, well, I did all these past upgrades.
Yeah.
I did this and I did that maybe 10 years ago. It may not be relevant.
Yeah.
It may not be relevant to what the market is or what people are looking for in the market.
Yeah.
And then, and I don't know that I do agree with it, but buyers don't compare your home to what you paid. I would say there's a caveat of when you bought it. Right?
Yeah.
If I bought it in 21 at 200,000 and now I'm in 26 and I've listed it for 500,000, did the market really appreciate that much?
Right.
But they compare it to what else they could buy.
That's it.
What else is on the market at 500?
Yeah.
Right. And so
that point is perfect. In fact, mentioned a listing agreement I went on, or listing appointment I went on the other night, and I said part of our pricing will be what is also on the market at the same time. And I know that when they come to see your house, they're likely to also go see these three other houses because they're comparable, and that's the nature. And when I want them, and they walk through your house and they walk through the other house, they're going to say, well, this one, your house, was either the better bang for the buck, or it had a little extra value, or I've made sure to market the elements that make your home special over that house. But that is your point. And your point is they're going to compare your house to the other ones they could buy, not the neighbor. The neighbor sold last year and he got a great price for it. That's great. And we can use that as a comp for data. But it's what is also on the market today. That's one of the better points that sellers can miss, because they want to look at their neighbor that sold a year and a half ago more than what's down the street that they're up against.
That's it. So for me, like personally, when I'm doing CMAs, and again, I'm not an appraiser, but we have to act as like we're an appraiser. But I'm actually including active competition. I'm including the live listings. Why do the first 2 weeks matter more than sellers realize?
Again, this is another one that is there's some recency effect, and it's buyer behavior. And that is the first 2 weeks matters a whole lot more than it used to, because if the buyer's in the market, they probably saw your house in the first 2 weeks because they've got a search on a website or their agent sent it to them. And they decided then that they did or didn't want to dig further into that house.
Yep.
As they said, oh, there's that house. Oh, that house, honey, it's $550. We can't do that. Swipe.
Yep.
And the next time that house comes up, even if it's a little bit lower priced, they're probably going to keep swiping past it.
Yep.
And it's a weird thing, but that swipe away motion, the first time they see it,
Yep.
you have to then overcome that. And so obviously that's not 100% of the time, but it is enough to where I know it and we can see it in the data to where if it it's not like you have to sell in the first 2 weeks or it's over.
Right.
It's just that first 2 weeks, no matter what, is the most important. And then if you find yourself backpedaling after 2 weeks, you have to overcome the idea that most of the people who are in the market for your house have already seen it and swiped past it.
Yep.
And not come to see it. Now you have to convince them now you really need to come see it because the prices, become attractive enough.
That's it. Yeah, and I wanted to share that, like you had mentioned, they're watching before a home hits the market. They're already looking, right? And so, again, going back to that public site, starts with a Z and ends with Illo, they do a good job of putting the new listings at the top of any search criteria. So a lot of times you'll just find the buyers just go there.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Google search where the top response is probably sponsored.
Yeah.
The top 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And so those search results, if your house is a little bit older and somewhat underperforming, it gets buried.
That's right. And then price reductions later could feel like weakness.
Yeah.
Right. And there are agents out there that will list a price or list a property for whatever price the seller determines because the seller is the expert. I'm sorry, there was sarcasm in there. Please forgive me. I'm still a little sour and salty from the last seller that I let steer the ship.
Yeah.
They're not the professional. We're the professional.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but price reductions, they do help. They do help. And sometimes it is necessary. Like I always tell my sellers, if you've had a lot of showings, over 5 showings and no offers, it might be an issue.
Yeah.
Is it a house issue, condition issue, or is it a price issue? We can.
Oftentimes they're related.
But sometimes the price reduction could feel like weakness, and then you're opening yourself up for potentially lowball offers.
Yeah.
And so again, our strategy, we price it right out of the gate.
Yeah.
And if we have to make corrections, based upon the market, we have to follow
that's
the
fine.
market.
Yeah.
We have to follow.
And you can do it somewhat strategically too. What we found now, it used to be like you'd put a house out on the market and it would just, if it's sat for 2-3 months, it's just as buyers came in, they would be introduced to your house. And so it was just a matter of time before somebody ended up coming across your house. The problem now is everybody that's looking gets to see your house immediately. Yes. And you have to understand that it gets put at the top of searches. It hits everybody's phone. And you really have that one shot to make that one big first impression and try to suck even if you just get the so that they hold, so they keep that around. But that first impression. So I always tell my sellers, I'm telling you, day one, treat these first 2 weeks like day one. But day one it's as perfect as we can get it. The pricing, the pictures, which is the second picture, which is the third picture. I spend a lot of time mulling over what should be the second or third picture because we know that there's that one shot because people's first impression aren't in your driveway. Right. They're on their computer or their phone or whatever. And so we need that presentation to be as good as possible. And then just like you said, that peak dies really quickly. Yep. And then you're just kind of sitting out there.
Yep. And then really the only way to get more traction is to do some kind of price improvement.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't have to be a huge $10,000, $50,000. It could be $100, but that makes it go back up. And we obviously track that. So condition is a strategy. It's not a personal judgment. Okay. So buyers notice, and we said this in, I don't remember, episode 3 or 4, look good, smell good, feel good.
Yep.
Buyers notice the smell.
Yeah.
When I'm going on a listing appointment.
Yep. Yeah.
Did you get that?
What I'm doing is I'm going through my head how I'm going to edit that.
My eardrum on that one. That sucks. I sniff so hard. They notice the smell. They notice the natural light.
Yep.
They notice if a light bulb is missing. They notice the cleanliness. Do they have dust bunnies in your, not your filters, what are those called, Johnny? The registers.
Yeah, registers.
The vents, right? You have dirt and dust bunnies up there. And deferred maintenance. One of the first things I do, shake those handrails. Yeah. You walking up to it. Is it safe or not? Because, So what have you seen with condition as a strategy, not a personal
So I'll go back to the point I made earlier about you get one chance at a first impression. People are very quick to the trigger on making decisions. And so I say the condition, I tell people to go out, drive out of their driveway, and come back in with a critical eye and just look for all the things that are wrong. And the two parts you have to get as perfect as you can is the drive into the driveway, the walk to the front door, and what you see, smell, and sense when you first open that door. Now, I'm not saying you get lazy on the rest of it, but you would start there. From a strategy and how do I prepare my home, you leave in your car and you come back with a critical eye. And that's because that's what I do every time I pull up. So that's why like curb appeal has never gone out of style.
Right.
But it's because when people come up, they immediately start imagining themselves pulling up to this house every day. And they want to feel that.
That's right. Yeah.
And then when I walk a house and I'm giving advice on what to do or change, fix, I'm looking for what caught my eye. It's the little crack, it's the little seam right there in the trim. And it's little things that you've gotten used to as the owner. I've got all that stuff in my house.
Same.
But I guarantee that when somebody else comes in, they're like, that was there last time. He hasn't fixed that? But it catches the eye.
Yeah. I feel that. I feel personally judged, Johnny. My house. Technically, it's not a house; it's a zoo. I'm a zookeeper.
That's right. But we'll keep the cages clean.
Yeah. So, fifth point that I want to talk about is pricing for attention beats pricing for hope.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that?
I think it's what we've talked about with the pricing strategy, and the hope is the idea of the hope is let's try this.
Yes.
What does it hurt? What does it hurt to ask for another $20K? Somebody might just want it for that. Yeah. And that's one of the kisses of death that we've talked about before, where this whole behavior, buyer behavior, they don't put up with it. That's the best That's the best way I can put it. Yeah. And so I'll put it out there, and you could even have in your mind, I'm happy to negotiate, but a lot of sellers feel like they're not doing their job if they don't try to get more. It's rare that works. Now, we saw this. We did in our stats episode. Go back and look. I think it was 7, where we showed in 2021, sellers were getting 101 to 106% of their list price on average. Now, that was bananas. Yeah. Now that's not the case. Now it's more like 96%, which means they're getting less than their asking price. So you go, well, then I should just ask for more. No, the problem is too many people are just asking for too much. And it's hard for us to statistically represent that, but we see it all the time. We have been, we've been advocating to bring this price to a more reasonable point. We borrowed it to a more reasonable point, and it's sold. And again, it's somewhat anecdotal to say that, but that's kind of the truth.
Yeah, and you mention this in our team meetings often. The buyers search by price brackets. Yeah. Right? And typically...
pricing,
If we go back to that site that I
Pick another one.
Realtor.com.
There you go.
If you go to Realtor.com, you're going to look for a bracket, and you may be approved up to 300, but you may want to spend 250. So you're going to be in that 250 to 300 bracket. Well, if I have a $300,000 house, am I going to go at 301?
Right.
Or 304.9? Now I'm in a whole different bracket. Yeah. So keeping that in the back of your mind, that buyers do search in brackets.
Yep.
And then if you price just above a bracket, you might eliminate traffic.
Yeah. I'm really glad you mentioned that, because every listing, I look at the $25,000 brackets. And if we're close to a $50,000 bracket, I'll never go 805. I'll go, we got to go 799.9, and then we'll make up that value somewhere else. But so many people cut off at the 100,000 mark. So when you want to go just a little over that 808, 810, 812, right. Until you get to the next 25, you have the potential of alienating. And the lower this is all strategy, but when the lower bracket you can be in, the more buyers you'll have.
That's right.
And like I said, maybe you make that up on the backside with you don't concede as you plan to not concede as much. But as far as getting eyes on, the bracketology matters.
Yeah, because activity creates leverage.
That's it.
Right? I mean, if we go back to that 21, 22 market, I mean, you pull up to a house and there's a line of cars waiting to get in there. That's that FOMO, right? It means it was priced right or there was just higher demand, but it's leverage. And the reality is multiple showings are greater than multiple price reductions.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
I would rather have more people in and out of the door than not have people in the door, and then we're just chasing the market with price reductions.
Yeah, and you're sitting waiting.
You're right.
Yeah, ultimately, like one of the tangible things that we can offer and measure is how many people we get in the door.
That's it.
So all of my marketing strategy and this bracketology and the list price and the pictures and all that stuff, it's all to get people in the door. We want to maximize that. Now, I'm not saying you put it on auction so you have, a lot of tire kickers. You want to eliminate tire kickers, but at the same time, the tangible thing I can say, we've shown it 30 times. And so that I feel like I'm doing my job. Then now we got to talk about how we get this thing sold. But yeah, that's a big part of it.
Yes. And then I think the other thing too that we've run into recently, probably the last year and a half, is that sellers need to understand that negotiation is part of the process, right? We've got to normalize concessions. It's our job. It's your real estate or realtor's job to educate you that concessions are very common in this market right now. And for you to get hung up on, I'm not paying the buyer's closing costs. I need to get buyer closing costs paid for me.
Yeah.
You could do that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Be crotchety. But at the end of the day, you are limiting your buyer pool and limiting your ability to sell the property.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going out and advertising or having us advertise.
Yeah.
No seller concessions will be paid.
Yeah.
Like, we have to normalize that.
Yeah.
Right? We have to normalize that inspections aren't an attack. You ever had to deal with that where the seller's like, oh my gosh, this inspector, blah, fill in the blank.
Yeah.
How do you overcome that? How do you communicate to a seller, listen, I know you love the house and I know you personally feel offended, but what would you do if you were buying the house? Would you want an inspection?
Yeah.
Would you want that inspector to find the things?
Yeah. Just about 100% of the time when we're representing a buyer, we suggest they get an inspection.
Yes.
Period. And so when you're prepping your seller, you're just like, hey, we'll get it under contract and it'll go through inspection and we'll handle it from there. Yeah. And the first point there was negotiations are not an attack. And asking for something, something off, or it might very well be that in order to make this deal work, the buyer needs some concessions, but maybe you get the price. Yeah. And so again, it's all levers that you pull. Yeah. You want to get the most you can. It's their job as the buyers to get it for the best terms that they can get. You're going to negotiate. That's the bottom line. Right. And then, but yeah, people take it as a poke in the eye. That they don't like something, maybe the most common one is like the kitchen is 10 years old and somebody comes in and goes, well, I'd have to redo this kitchen, so I want 50,000 off the value. That's what we see, right? And come on, that's all ridiculous. But especially with inspections. And inspections are, we have a love-hate relationship with inspections anyway, but most inspections boil down to one or two things that you negotiate in. Yeah. And you work through it.
And that's it. It's all give and take. And a deal is not a good deal unless everyone wins. That was one thing my first broker ever told me. Yeah. It's not a deal unless everyone wins. And, there are some deals that sellers have had to take a lower price because they were in a position where they had to get out of the house, right? Rather than short sale or foreclosure, they were willing to take a little bit more to save what equity they could. Yeah. They couldn't afford paying the mortgage. So last piece of advice. And if you've watched up to this point of this video,
let's hear it.
What emoji do you want them to drop, Johnny?
Oh, man. If you made it up to this point, I want to see. It's so weird that when there's 100 options, you can't think of one of them.
I'll say one. I got one.
Oh, you got one. Oh, yeah, drop it.
Drop a
money
emoji.
back.
Not put money back. Because if you watch this,
set of keys. Just thought of a good one.
I'll let you pick for the next video, Johnny. Set of keys, money bag, Thanks for putting up with us too. We're just having fun. We want to educate people, right? All right, last thing. Agent that you choose matters more than the market. Mm-hmm. So what do you want to share with that?
Yeah, we're advocates for agents, right? Yeah. The market is always going to play a role, but you need someone that understands everything that's going on. So, I'm almost willing to bet that if you listen to this episode and you're not an agent, there's probably something like, okay, that kind of makes sense that we've said in this episode. It's just it's being plugged into it all the time. Now, people bark about needing to use agents and all that stuff sometimes. But at the end of the day, it's really just about being there as an advisor and being someone to lean on and being someone who has the right advice for you to protect you and to get you the right deal and get you through.
A few signs that you know that you're working with a good agent, in my opinion, they're going to tell the truth early, right? Some of the toughest conversations that I typically have with sellers is the compensation. What is the fee to work with me? Mm-hmm. And then pricing, right? And so I learned very quickly what type of client this is going to be and if I want to work with them or not, right? Because at the end of the day, I've taken on clients that have not appreciated my wisdom, my market expertise, and all the things that I've gone through to get to where I am today. And I'm going to have that conversation and I'm going to be truthful. Like, listen, this is your range. This is where I think it's going to sell for. These are the items that I think you need to address. They don't want to listen to me. Yeah. I don't know that I want them as a client. Yeah, I will go find someone that respects my opinion.
Yeah, I would say probably the bigger mistakes I've made before is just going against my own advice or just, hey, I think you should sell it for this. No, we're going to try that. Okay, let's try that and see what happens. And what happens is always, you're 3 months later and you go, why aren't we selling? Well, but not advocating what ultimately is in their best interest up front.
Right.
And so I felt like I sold that client short back then of saying, if I had told them, listen, it won't work. That won't work for you. And let me tell you why this won't work for you. Instead, I went along with it. And then we both kind of lost out.
Yeah.
And that's why, to your point, you need somebody who's is willing to disagree with you kind of up front and say, this is where I feel. And then, if you have strong disagreements or, you're way apart, you can sit there and try to figure it out. But otherwise, you have to understand how we don't want to set you up for failure and just say, hey, if you're willing, just kind of then go along with it and then we're both suffering.
Yeah, or set ourselves up for failure.
Well, yeah, set us up for failure.
Because at the end of the day, if we're not able to procure a buyer, right, because of our marketing effort, is it our fault? So it's easier if you work with an agent right up front and say, hey, this is what I think. And I've lost listings because of that. Yeah. I have.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I want what's best for the client, not lining my pocket, like you said. And managing expectations of going through, like, if it's been a while since you sold a house, talk through it. And then at the end of the day, you want to find an agent that's going to protect your net, not your ego, right? Not their ego.
Yeah.
And, you put that into practice. You think of those three things. And, a lot of times people say I'll come into an interview and they're like, yeah, we're interviewing 2 or 3 other people. You could do that. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, people go car shopping and go to different dealers all the time.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, who do you have the most peace with? Who do you have the most trust in? And sometimes an agent's coming in cold. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I've gone on appointments. I've never met this person before. They found me on Google. And I'm there to build relationship and to build trust. Because if I don't have a relationship with you and you don't trust me, this 6 months is could be very painful.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. This might be another episode too, but when you're choosing your selling agent, okay, you have to be with someone that you're willing to somewhat go to battle with. And you have to build that rapport and that connection. And sometimes if I've come back against the seller and say, hey, I just don't think you're going to get that, then I'm also going to advocate for you the same way. But if you're looking for the agent that's going to give you the highest number when they walk in, a trained monkey can give you, a sticky note with a big fat number on it and say, I'm going to try to sell your house for this. Yeah. It's really, you have to understand you're going into a professional relationship. You're going to be talking a lot. You're going to be working through a dynamic professional situation with them, and you need to understand, and you try to build that rapport. And when you're picking your agent, it's not about the prices. Which one do I think is going to serve me and who I feel like I can work with the best?
Yep, absolutely. So again, episode 12, landing the plane.
Yep.
The goal for this video was just to educate our sellers, and that it doesn't have to be stressful. That if you partner with an agent that knows what they're doing full time, has a track record, go look them up on all those public sites. It'll show the previous past sales. Yeah. And so that it doesn't have to be stressful. Preparation creates confidence, and the right plan matters more than timing the market. So sign us off with your socials, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Johnny Dugan at Mountain Mansions GA on Facebook and the Instagram.
That's right. And I'm Cody Chembars, Anchorman86 on Facebook, and Cody Chembars on the gram. Again, thanks for watching. Thanks for being a loyal subscriber, loyal listener. And we're always looking for our listeners to give us a topic. So you drop a comment and say, hey, we want to learn about this. Johnny and I will tackle it, even if we don't feel like we're pros at it.
We'll break it down.
Till the next one.
You are loved. Like and subscribe.